Quick note, when you're applying this foundation, try not to get a whole bunch of it in your hair. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a foundation review on the Too Faced Born This Way foundation. As you know, I've been looking for the perfect foundation for my face. This is really a case of YouTube made me buy it because I've seen a lot of beauty videos where influencers have been using this foundation and lauding its full coverage benefits. I decided it was time to try a new foundation, so I hopped onto the Sephora website and picked this up. And when it came in, I decided I would try it on camera for you so that you can see my first impressions and what I think of it. So if you want to see my first impressions and review of the Too Faced Born This Way foundation, keep watching. Okay, so the box says that it is luminous and oil-free, so I'm expecting sort of a dewy finish on this foundation. It calls itself an undetectable medium to full coverage foundation, so I'm expecting this to completely get rid of all my redness and any imperfections that I have. It says here it's infused with coconut water to delicately replenish skin's moisture levels, alpine rose to brighten skin's appearance and promote elasticity, and hyaluronic acid for a smoother, more youthful appearance. I like all three of those things. Another claim it makes on the box is this oil-free foundation masterfully diffuses the line between makeup and skin. Coverage so undetectable and skin so naturally radiant, they'll think you were born this way. And it says tip for I woke up like this perfection. Apply from center of the face outward and blend. Build to full coverage by layering as needed. Okay, so that tells me that I'm not going to get full coverage in one application, so it's probably a buildable foundation and I'm probably going to have to use more than one layer to get the coverage that I need. So this part of the box is the most interesting to me. It says that they did a consumer study and it said 100% of people said this foundation blurred their imperfections. 98% of people said this foundation made their skin look absolutely perfect. And 97% of people said this foundation provided natural coverage. So we're gonna put all those claims to the test when I try this foundation out. I got the shade Vanilla, and I went on the Sephora Canada website, and it said that vanilla was for fair to light skin with neutral to pink undertones. And I think that that's where I fall in. So we'll see if this one is the correct shade for me. So when you take it out of the unit carton, it's in this really beautiful packaging. I really like the bottle. It's frosted glass. It has a really nice sturdy cap on it with the logo on top. And when you open it up, there is a pump, which is awesome. I really have a hard time with foundations where you sort of have to like pour the foundation onto your hand because I find that there's a lot of waste that way. And with a pump, you can control how much product is coming out. This foundation retails for $49 at Sephora Canada, which I think is a decent price if it does everything that it says it's gonna do, and we'll find out. So let's go ahead and test this out. In order to give this foundation a fair shot, I am gonna go in with primer first. I would really never wear foundation without primer underneath of it, so I'm gonna just do my normal routine with this foundation and see how it works out. So I'm gonna go in first with my Dr. Brandt Pores No More Luminizer Primer in the T-Zone. Red face. Then I'm gonna go in with a little bit of Urban Decay Quick Fix on my cheeks just for a bit of added hydration. I am gonna take just a quick look at my face and my pores now, just so that I can see the difference between now and when I have the foundation on. So I definitely have some redness on my cheeks. That's totally usual. I don't really have any major breakouts right now. I do have a little bit of redness on my forehead. I can definitely see my pores, especially on my cheek area. So I'm gonna be expecting those to be blurred like the box says. For this review, I'm gonna be doing one half of my face with a beauty blender and one half of my face with a brush. I don't know what the consistency or texture of this foundation is gonna be. And usually with thicker foundations, I will go in with a brush so that I can shear it out a little bit. And with more liquidy foundations, I would use a beauty blender. So I'm gonna try both and see which side looks better and what tool I should be using with this foundation. So to start, I'm gonna do one pump on the back of my hand and see how far that amount of product takes me. So you can definitely see that it's sort of a more liquidy consistency, like it's sort of running down my hand right now. This does look like a decent amount of product for one pump, so I'm gonna try this amount first and see how far it gets me. I'm gonna go in with the beauty blender first. Okay. So first impressions of this foundation, I don't really feel anything on my face, which is kind of amazing. Like it does feel very lightweight, and I'm looking in the monitor and I do see that my redness has been reduced. So although it is lightweight, it is providing coverage. So that's automatically a good thing. Seems to be the right shade, so that's good. Okay, so one pump on the back of my hand did cover the whole side of my face. You can see the foundation's completely gone. I will say, just first impressions of this, the coverage is really nice, but I have to say I don't love the finish right off the bat. Like, I do feel that it's emphasizing my texture and not covering it. I do feel like it's emphasizing my pores and not blurring them. And although it's lightweight, I do think that it just feels a little bit heavy. Like, you can kind of see, I don't know if you can see that, but it's already like it creased in my nose area, like right away. So try and blur that out. I do still have redness right here for sure that's peeking through the foundation, so I am gonna have to probably go in with another layer of foundation. But overall, after reading the box, I was kind of expecting a miracle, and that's not what happened. So, I mean, it's still a nice foundation, and I still think that it's laying on the skin nicely, but I was expecting, I guess, a little bit more of a miracle considering all the claims on the box. So now I'm gonna do the other side of my face with a brush. I'm gonna use the Morphe M439 brush. This is the standard brush that I use with foundations, and I find that it's better for like buffing the product and sort of shearing it out a little bit. So maybe because this side was just, it seems to be just a tad more cakey, the brush might be better for this particular foundation. So I'm gonna take one more pump on the back of my hand, and I'm just gonna go in with the foundation brush. And I'm just gonna use sort of short downward strokes for this. I do want the foundation to sort of still lay nicely on my skin, so I'm just lightly buffing it in like it normally would. Okay, so looking at the difference between the brush side and the Beauty Blender side, I have to say I really like the brush side better. So I think that that's how this foundation is going to be applied best for me. Just in looking at the two sides, there's a definite difference between the Beauty Blender side, especially in this area where I can see more of my pores, and the brush side where I feel like my pores are a little bit more blurred and a little bit more brushed out. So my whole face has 2 pumps of foundation right now. And that's pretty incredible considering I would use 4 to 4.5 pumps of the Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk foundation just to get the coverage that I wanted. I feel like the coverage right now is decent, and I'm just gonna have to go in with probably a little bit more in my problem areas just to make sure that I get that full coverage look. So I'm gonna do one more pump on my hand. And I'm first gonna go in with the Beauty Blender on this side of my face and put more foundation where I think needs it. Okay, and then using that same pump of product, I'm gonna go in with the brush on the other side and just put a little bit more product where I think it needs it on this side. Okay, so my face now has 3 full pumps on it. I think that the coverage is where I want it to be, and I have to admit that I'm impressed with the coverage. I don't really see any major redness anymore on my face anywhere, but I will say that when I'm looking at it from far away, I do think that it's a nice coverage and it looks sort of natural looking, but when I look at it close up, I can definitely see that I'm wearing foundation, and I can definitely see the product on my face. Another thing that I don't like about this foundation is that it transfers. So when I press it onto my face, it's definitely on my hands. And I don't know if there are any other face touchers out there, but I am definitely someone that touches my face throughout the day, even though I try not to. And I don't like ending up with a whole bunch of foundation on my hands. Also, when I'm using my phone at work or when I'm using my cell phone, I don't like it when foundation transfers onto those things. So I'm not a fan of the fact that this foundation transfers. I do like the coverage, but I have to say that it does look a little cakey. So we'll have to see how it wears throughout the day. So now we're gonna go back to the box, to all those claims that we talked about earlier, and see what we think. So 100% of people said this foundation blurred their imperfections. So I will say that I do see some blurring, especially on the side that I applied with a brush. The side that I applied with a Beauty Blender, I can still definitely see like major pores action happening, and I also feel like the foundation is kind of settling into my fine lines around my smile line area. But I think that's just because the Beauty Blender presses the product into the skin rather than letting it like sort of sweep lightly onto the skin. I'm not getting the same thing over on this side where I applied the foundation with a brush. So 98% of people said this foundation made their skin look absolutely perfect. 98% of people had perfect skin after this? No way. Like this foundation has already settled into my fine lines on my forehead. Like I can see a major amount of foundation that has settled right in here. That is not okay. And it has already started to crease into my nose area as well. Not a good sign. So I can't say that I agree with that claim that people said this foundation made their skin look absolutely perfect. It says absolutely perfect. Like, am I missing something? It also says on here, 97% said this foundation provided natural coverage. Don't really agree with that either, only because I can definitely see that I'm wearing foundation. I can't say that I'm happy with this so far. I definitely feel the foundation settling into fine lines. I already had to buff foundation out of this part of my forehead because it was settling in there already. It's settling into the creases around my nose, and it's also settling into this area of my chin. So what I'm gonna do now is set my face with loose powder and then see how I like the finish of the foundation after that. Maybe the reason why this foundation is slipping around so much and settling into fine lines is because I haven't set it yet. So I'm gonna go ahead and set it with loose powder and then see what I think after that. Definitely gonna set the under eyes and the area around my nose. So now I've gone in with loose setting powder, and I have to say I like it a little bit more, and that's to be expected. That's the point of setting powder, is to sort of lock the cream products down on your face. I definitely feel like it's a little bit more of a flawless finish now. Still on the side that I applied with the Beauty Blender, I can definitely still see a little bit of like texture, imperfections, fine lines, and the setting powder sort of didn't blur that away. When I look at myself in the monitor, I can see that my redness is reduced. I can see that it has a little bit more of like a sort of a flawless finish, but definitely when I look up close, I'm kind of disappointed. I really don't like how I can see sort of a line of foundations like settling up here, and I keep having to like kind of buff it out, and really loose powder like didn't help at all. What I'm gonna do now is go finish the rest of my makeup and see how I like the foundation when I have a full face of makeup on. It will probably take me about 30 minutes to put the rest of my makeup on, so I'm gonna see how I like the foundation once I have a full face on. Then I'm also gonna check in another couple of hours and see how the foundation has worn throughout the day. So I'm gonna go finish the rest of my face and I'll be right back. All right guys, I'm back and the rest of my makeup is on. I've had this foundation on for about an hour or so, so it's time to check in and see how it's doing so far. All right, so just looking in the monitor, I can already see that I like the side of my face where I use the brush rather than the side of my face where I use the Beauty Blender. This side just looks a little bit more flawless and a little bit more smooth, whereas on this side of my face, I feel like it's a little patchy and I can see some texture and some pores and just a little bit of redness. Now looking up close, I'm impressed with how this foundation has applied in terms of the coverage. I really don't see any redness from my rosacea, and I feel like the coverage is good, but I definitely feel like there's a trade-off for that coverage, and that is sort of this cakey look. I don't think that this foundation is sheer or provides natural coverage at all. I think it's like, definitely you can see that I'm wearing foundation and it's really obvious. I also feel like this is another problem area for me right here, and I feel like the foundation is sort of settling right into my chin here as well. I have had to sort of buff my face with a powder brush a couple of times just because I haven't really been happy with how the foundation has been sitting on my face. But I do like the coverage and I do like the way that it looks with the rest of my makeup. So far with my makeup on, I do think that I would still give this foundation a 6 out of 10. I do want to see how it wears throughout the day, and my opinion might change depending on the longevity of this foundation. I don't hate it so much that I'm going to take it back to Sephora. I do want to try it with a couple of other primers, and I think that it would work well with primers that are sort of really smoothing and really mattifying, because this is sort of a more liquidy, dewy foundation. I do think that it has worn better since I applied loose powder and since I sprayed my face with setting spray. I really think that that helped to sort of keep the foundation in place, and it's not moving around as much as before when I didn't have any of those products on. So I am gonna check back in a couple of hours and I'll let you know my final thoughts. All right guys, it's time to check in. I have been wearing this foundation for about 5 hours now, so I wanna just take another look and see how it's performing. So I'm gonna go in and look closely at my face, and yikes. Guys, this wear test has been pretty bad. Looking at myself close up in the mirror, I actually look like I have serious cake face, and this foundation has settled into like every pore and fine line on my entire face. Like looking in the monitor, it looks not bad, but up close, it is an absolute disaster. It's also a pretty hot day in the city here today, and so I noticed in some spots on my face, the foundation has actually like worn off, and it has given me this sort of patchy look. Right here on my chin area, the foundation has kind of worn off, and so I can see redness and discoloration underneath. It seems to have worn pretty well on the cheeks, but definitely in my T-zone, where most of my fine lines are and where foundation tends to break up the most on me, that's where it looks the worst. It has also broken up right here on my nose, so I can see some sort of patchiness and a little bit of redness from my nose area. I don't know if you can see that, but the foundation has worn off right here and right here. It has also definitely settled into the fine lines underneath my eyes. Like if I sort of pull my skin, I can see a little bit of foundation sort of caking up underneath my eye area. I tend to sweat the most on my nose, my chin, and around my upper lip, and definitely my upper lip area. The foundation has started to cake, and it looks like I have like a foundation mustache going on. Like, ugh, it is not cute. So definitely this foundation has not worn well on me. I don't mind it from far away, and I do feel like on the monitor it doesn't look as bad as it does super close up. But day to day I'm interacting with people, I'm interacting with clients, and I'm looking for a foundation that doesn't cake up on my face and make me look like frickin' Frankenstein. I am gonna try this with a couple more different primers. I haven't given up on it yet, but my first impressions of this foundation are sort of meh. Like I said, it's probably about a 6 out of 10. I do feel that it provided good coverage, but I just feel like it's kind of caking up in my fine lines, and it's not giving me the most flawless finish I've ever seen. For all of the things that it says on this box, I really thought this foundation was going to be exceptional. All the claims that they make it seem like this foundation is just absolutely perfect. And what I still can't get over is 98% of people said this foundation makes their skin look absolutely perfect. Like, how could I possibly be in the 2% of people that thinks this foundation makes me look like a golden girl? I probably won't be repurchasing the Born This Way foundation. And that is it, you guys. That is my review of the Too Faced Born This Way foundation. If you love this foundation, or if it's your holy grail, please let me know in the comments below what primers you use and how you apply this foundation to make you love it so much. And if you have any foundation recommendations that you want me to try in a future video, please let me know in the comments below. And as always, guys, if you liked this video, please subscribe to my channel and let me know in the comments below the kind of videos you want to see me do in the future. And if you didn't like this video, keep that shit to yourself. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!